the extent of betrayal I could never have foreseen. Sarah, my cherished spouse of 21 years, harbored a secret that left me shattered. It seemed innocent with late nights at work and extended weekends, but upon finding her with her condescending boss on a yacht, I knew the truth needed to be unveiled. My drone documented scenes too hard to bear. In disbelief, I watched my cherished wife engage in acts that left my heart broken. Now I stand at the edge of vengeance, ready to make them all pay for their transgressions. This is my tale of deceit and retribution, a story made possible by the technology of drones. It's essentially a high-end hexacopter, I said, though I chose not to mention the substantial sum exceeding $2,500 I invested in this mechanized arachnid. Regardless of its label, it remains a frivolous expenditure that could have been channeled towards our travel plans. Nonetheless, it has already generated income through 2 aerial photographs for a realtor, with 3 more lined up within the next fortnight. By fulfilling 5 to 6 such assignments, I'd recover my investment, and any subsequent work would yield profits. Had I possessed this drone last year during the Jefferson and Murphy incident, we might have apprehended the shooter sooner, given better evidence. If I can pitch this concept to more departments, it could expedite my retirement and foster a commercial drone enterprise. Regardless of your perspective, you'll forever remain immature. You'll forever be labeled as a dreamer, yet if it were that effortless, everyone would do the same. I must say, I value your faith in my capabilities. Faith, let's just say it doesn't make me chuckle. I'm at a loss as to why people consider you so intelligent and capable of anything you aspire to achieve. Back then, you thought highly of my intelligence too, and you told others that I could accomplish whatever I desired. Perhaps their impressions of me aren't entirely off the mark. After being married for 21 years, your earnings haven't significantly increased from when we first tied the knot. So, despite your intellectual prowess, it appears we're not thriving, are we? Using her fingers to form air quotes, she emphasized intelligent. Even with my salary, I earn twice as much as you, yet it covers our mortgage and all utilities. Isn't it fascinating how that works out? Unluckily, the law enforcement profession doesn't guarantee wealth. To put it mildly, an honest cop isn't going to become rich. You could acquire a degree and practice law, which might alleviate our financial concerns. Regardless of how much income I generate, we'd still be struggling financially 3 days before each paycheck. How many pairs of shoes do you possess in your closet, and out of those, how many have been worn more than twice? Similarly, among your clothes, which suits and handbags remain untouched with their tags still attached? I chanced upon a receipt from Ulta for close to $200. How much makeup is essential for becoming a successful realtor? For the past 2 weeks, you've been hinting about trading in your 2-year-old car for a newer model. My truck, on the other hand, is 19 years old. Since our marriage, you've had over half a dozen new cars. Therefore, refrain from criticizing my spending habits. In contrast to your expenses, what I spend money on brings me returns. My wardrobe and cosmetics yield profits from my investments. They are essential for my profession. However, the only return I've witnessed is that you often work late almost every day and over weekends. We even canceled our 4th of July plans to accommodate your extended work hours at the office. You seldom cross my path, and when we do meet, it's usually under tense circumstances or you're hurrying off somewhere else. Our bed has been solely used for sleeping for more than 4 months now, but I believe that is inaccurate. Granted, it's been some time, but it hasn't been since our anniversary on May 8th that we shared intimacy. Darling, you recall how you had to work late due to your boss and were furious that day? You almost needed persuading, yet when we finally did spend time together, the encounter was hurried and forgotten. Previously, you struggled to go a week without intimacy. Lately, however, you've shown no interest in pursuing it, and every time I made an attempt, you found a reason to decline. For a moment, she looked surprised, then cast her eyes downwards and turned away. I spoke softly, attempting to be calm. Sweetheart, it's been a trying week, and we haven't spent a weekend together in months. How about we fill up the tank tomorrow morning and take a trip to the mountains, perhaps Helen or Blairsville, and explore the tourist shops for the day? You're heading to Jessica's father's house for the pool weekend again, aren't you? My displeasure must have been evident, yet she appeared oblivious. This marks the sixth consecutive weekend, isn't it? Are these your preferences? Wouldn't you prefer a day by the pool in Kingston with Jessica over me in the mountains? Who else will be there? A colleague. Now you're telling me who I can and cannot socialize with. You're dictating how I should use my time. She looked furious. I don't require your approval for anything, and I won't explain to you where I spend my time. You're always absent, and yet you question my whereabouts. It's none of your concern who I converse with. From the beginning, you've been against Jessica. You've never appreciated her. You aim to destroy all my relationships so that I am left with no one else but to stay at home under your supervision. I was dumbfounded, finding it hard to believe what I had just been told. Are we always apart? I merely go to work and stay there. I don't socialize with men, nor do I attend sports events, races, pubs, or nightclubs. Whenever I step out, I prefer your company. Yet, you often find reasons to decline. I never instructed you on where to be, nor did I anticipate needing your approval for anything. Regarding Jessica, no, I don't harbor affection for her. She has been divorced thrice due to infidelity with her former spouses. I consider her an unsuitable role model for a married woman. However, I never interfered with your friendship with her. By the way, feel free to spend time with Jessica tomorrow. Tomorrow, I plan on testing some new batteries for my model planes, as you are aware that toy airplanes aren't of interest to you. I turned my back on her surprised expression and moved through the kitchen into the backyard. I entered the shed where I worked on my hexacopter and began packing for tomorrow. In the evening, when Sarah returned to bed, she wore lengthy pajamas. She remained distant from me, turned away, slipping into slumber without uttering a word. My mind wandered to our faltering marriage, grappling with the question of why we veered off course. Upon reflection, one answer kept surfacing. Sarah's job at Sutton's real estate agency seemed to be the catalyst. I recalled attending several work events during her early employment there. Strangely, I hadn't been invited to any for over a month. These gatherings were predominantly attended by women, with a handful of male partners or boyfriends, one unattached man, and the agency owner, Paul Sutton. Paul was often boisterous and inappropriate, laced with crude humor, consistently invading personal space without crossing any clear boundaries. Most people chose to overlook his behavior, and he seemed fixated on only one woman, his wife. I could never envision a friendship with him, mistrusting him deeply. At those gatherings, nothing appeared out of the ordinary. There was no indication that anyone from the agency was behaving inappropriately. However, I distinctly recall Sarah taking great pride in presenting me to her coworkers. She kept hold of my hand and smiled, rarely leaving my side for extended periods. Fast-forwarding 6 months, she now seemed averse to my presence. I puzzled over the actions that might have marred our bond. Could it be that I was spending too much time at work? In law enforcement, long hours and stress can erode many relationships. Such high-stress situations impact not just the officer, but also the partner who frets about whether this shift could be their last. Such partnerships often don't endure for long. Yet, I couldn't identify any significant life changes except for her job during that period. I had maintained my position in SID for years, and we hadn't encountered such issues before. Therefore, it seemed to boil down to her job. We needed to discuss this matter. But after she leveled accusations of control against me, I decided to postpone the conversation. That evening, sleep evaded me. This morning, I found Sarah packing a vibrant beach bag filled with towels and sunscreen in the kitchen, prompting me to ask about dinner plans. "What should I cook for tonight?" I inquired, to which she responded without halting her packing or glancing at me. "Perhaps you could prioritize self-care today. Jessica and I are off shopping and getting our nails done, so we'll dine out. There's a chance I might spend the night if we decide on wine." Although it was unclear whether she intended to provoke a response from me, given her knowledge of my feelings towards Jessica, I remained silent. Instead, I observed as she exited through the garage door in her car. For the subsequent 2 hours, I mowed the lawn while pondering deeply. It had never crossed my mind that there could be cause for doubt in Sarah or her affection for me. Although I recognized our marriage had lost its early years' thrill, I believed it still retained a sense of strength and comfort, like an aged chair. It served as a refuge from the challenging work environment I encountered daily. Perhaps my marriage did not provide Sarah with the same solace. Perhaps comfort wasn't what Sarah desired from me anymore. It struck me that she no longer viewed me as a potential husband. I wasn't certain if she was seeing another man, but the idea was becoming less implausible. I tried to dismiss it, yet my doubts were growing. Who could it be? She never spoke of anyone. She shared little with me unless necessary. The only person she occasionally mentioned was, "No, wait." I released the lawnmower handle, and it ceased. Suddenly, I felt a need for water. I stood before the fridge, basking in the cool air. It was a scorching August morning in Georgia, and the heat would only intensify. My mind wandered back to Sarah. What had shifted between us? Could she truly have transformed so drastically in just half a year? I couldn't recall any instance where she seemed attracted to another woman. As far as I knew, she found the notion repugnant. No, it couldn't be true. Yet, this didn't clarify the situation at hand. I resolved to discover the residence of Jessica's father. Pondered having lunch with Sarah and Jessica, ensuring no one drove under the influence. Perhaps Sarah would appreciate this. Included Jessica in the plan too. Thought they might fancy something from Chicken Salad Chick, as I'd heard good reviews about their new restaurant. Checked Life 360 on my phone to locate Sarah, but saw location paused since 7:55. Now anxious. Why had she stopped sharing her location? Was she concealing something from me? Felt lightheaded, similar to when standing up suddenly. A tempest within my mind, yet still harbored hope. Glanced at my watch. It read 10:16. Over 2 hours since she paused the app, an application we've used for over a year. Sarah wanted to know where I was during work hours so she could call for help if necessary. Never told her about our patrol cars having GPS trackers and dispatchers always knowing our location. Let her believe the app was crucial for my safety. Was that the true motivation behind her suggestion? Was there perhaps some other motive for her needing to know my whereabouts constantly? I wished she had merely paused the app and not disabled my phone's GPS. I booted up my laptop and initiated iCloud, activating the Find My iPhone application. Though I prefer Samsung and Android devices, Sarah insisted on having the newest iPhone. Since it was essential to equip each new phone with the required applications, I could quickly log in and monitor her phone location on a map. The display revealed she was at Lake Alatuna, not where she claimed to be. Perhaps Jessica's father owns a boat, and they visited the lake. In truth, I was searching for a plausible explanation for something I refused to accept. Yet, until yesterday, I had never suspected my wife could deviate from loyalty towards me and our marriage. I launched Google Earth on my laptop to obtain the GPS coordinates corresponding to where the app indicated her phone. The satellite imagery verified she was at an isolated area of Lake Alatuna, not at her friend's pool. Searched for a parking space near the lake, reachable via Cooper's branch boat launch within roughly half an hour. Intended to test new drone batteries, estimating travel time of about 45 minutes. Gathered equipment and consulted SkyVector to assess airspace. Most of the lake fell under an uncontrolled area, reducing concerns over nearby airports. Utilized Mission Planner on my laptop to map out the drone flight, contemplating between two routes. The first was slightly longer, approximately 3 miles, sticking to open water with 5 waypoints to reach the cove. The second, shorter route involved crossing 3 landmasses. Flying the water route would allow for lower altitudes and staying out of radar range. Previous drone flights had never exceeded this distance, but I believed my high-power video transmitter and 16-channel digital transmitter could handle it, despite some uncertainty. The journey would last approximately 7-8 minutes each way, which was within the range of my recently acquired 12,000 mAh LiPo battery packs, a choice that had drawn criticism. I understood that this flight would test my boundaries. Technically, I was exceeding regulations by flying beyond my designated area, potentially risking my commercial flying license. A malfunction in the drone could lead to harm or damage. However, my life had undergone significant changes over the past 24 hours, and foresight didn't seem crucial. The lake was 840 feet above sea level, so I programmed the drone to fly at 950 feet, staying below the 400-foot legal limit for flying near the ground. I could have flown directly, but navigating around obstacles would take too much time. I wanted a quick start. I was concerned that Sarah might detect my drone and track my location using the same app I had used to uncover her lies. So I purchased a low-cost prepaid cell phone for $48 from a nearby store. I diverted calls from my Galaxy S9 to this new device. After placing the Samsung on its charger by my bed, I gathered my equipment and drove eastward on US Highway 411 towards Carterville. 33 minutes later, I pulled over at Cooper's Branch boat ramp, finding only two individuals there, a woman with dark hair in her 20s and a young red-haired girl around 4 or 5 years old playing with a ball. No boats or trailers were in the vicinity, assuring solitude. I positioned my tripod adorned with directional antennas and a signal booster near the lakeside picnic table. Opening my laptop, I connected the telemetry receiver, firing up Mission Planner. Once prepared, I retrieved the Taro 690 hexacopter from its case, extending and securing its arms before attaching a substantial battery pack at the bottom with Velcro and nylon safety straps. After connecting the battery, the drone activated, showcasing its wiring, antennas, and a GoPro camera mounted on a gimbal below. 145 feet beneath the lake lies where the drone would submerge if it crashed, making retrieval impossible. I switched on the transmitter and base station, reloaded my flight plan, and reattached the battery to the drone. Fortunately, none of the motors activated. I carried out pre-flight checks, verifying all cables and parts were securely attached, and tested the motors before fitting the 13-inch carbon propellers. I recorded the GPS coordinates of the launch site and inputted them into the mission planner. Following this, I uploaded the flight plan into the drone's onboard computer, preparing for takeoff. As I monitored the video feed for the drone's signal, a clear voice echoed behind me. "What is that?" Turning around, I saw bright blue eyes and felt a fleeting sadness that soon dissipated. I envisioned a life with my daughter, witnessing her growth from an infant to a young woman at her wedding. However, these were merely figments of my imagination. Our difficulties in having more children after our son's birth complicated matters. My dream of raising a daughter remained unrealized. However, I never felt remorse. Upon learning my wife would recuperate and regain her health from the surgeon, I was joyful and enthusiastic about our family's future. "Katie, you shouldn't bother him," the woman said. "She isn't bothering me," I responded. "I'm merely testing some new equipment." I ensured the flight plan was set in the autopilot and started the flight from my laptop. The hexacopter took off, rising roughly 10 feet above the ground. It executed a full turn to the left, followed by another to the right before stopping, facing the marina and its large boats, maintaining its position in the air. Once it cleared the compass test, the hexacopter paused, then ascended higher and picked up speed. It reached its first checkpoint over the lake, turned left towards the second checkpoint, and soon vanished behind some trees. I heard a woman's voice behind me. "Are you certain that Kate and I aren't disturbing you?" She suggested leaving if focus was required, to which I replied, "You're not disturbing me, but I might not be good company for a while." In approximately 8 minutes, I might witness something unsettling. She inquired about my well-being, clearly worried. I reassured her of her safety. This morning, I discovered that my wife's phone could be in the cove across the lake. She mentioned going to her friend's pool in Kingston, but I've noticed some peculiar occurrences recently, and I need to ascertain the truth before my thoughts run amok. Kate, her daughter, placed a comforting hand on my arm, her eyes fixed on the monitor displaying the drone's video feed. "It's breathtaking. It feels like we're soaring," Kate remarked with a grin. I reciprocated her smile. The drone was nearing the third waypoint and was soon to hit the fourth one. Looking at the mom, I suggested, "If you open the toolbox in my vehicle, you'll discover frisbee discs. Why don't you and Kate play with them for a while?" She agreed. "Kate, come here, dear," she called out. Turning to me, she received a nod. With hesitation, Kate stepped down from the bench and approached her mother, accepting the blue frisbee disc. I checked on my laptop that the video was being recorded and noticed the battery was at 73%. The drone arrived at its fourth marker, just beyond the bay entrance, and rose to 400 feet. I donned my goggles for a clearer view of the footage and gripped the transmitter. I didn't intend to command the drone unless necessary, but wanted to manipulate the camera. The drone orbited around the bay, lowering from 400 to 200 feet. On the video, two boats could be seen in the bay, and my heart felt heavy. A disappointed, "Oh no," echoed behind me. Although I couldn't see her expression, I was sure the mother shared my dismay. I hoped Kate didn't catch a glimpse. Two boats were docked at the bay's corner, where I spotted three familiar faces among a crowd. I aimed my camera at the scene, prompting a voice behind me to inquire, "Is one of them your wife?" I affirmed, "Yes." "Are you certain?" The question came as one of the women on the boat caught sight of the drone and stood up from her companion. Confirming, I said, "Yes, I am sure." I removed my goggles, detached the battery, and stowed everything away in its case. With a call imminent, I hastened to prepare. Just then, my phone rang. I answered with as calm a voice as possible. "Hello?" Sarah asked. "Hey, Sean. What's for dinner tonight?" I thought about grilling a burger and spending some time in the workshop. "How about you?" I replied. "Finished mowing the backyard. Might do the front too. So, are you home?" "Yes." "Why?" I inquired. "You mentioned testing your new batteries last night. Were you referring to me?" She suggested that action, mentioning batteries were charging. I proposed circling the yard as the grill warmed up. "All right, everything okay?" she queried, seeming troubled. "Should you return from Kingston?" I replied, but with uncertainty. "I was just basking in the sun and wanted to ensure you had dinner tonight." This sparked curiosity, since communication has been scarce for months. Why this sudden concern? Why the shift in mood? I've been contemplating our conversations yesterday and today. Perhaps we should attempt to reconnect as before. She proposed a mountain trip next Saturday, mirroring earlier plans. An Airbnb could be found for an overnight stay, she suggested, followed by dinner that night, offering to bring fresh clothes and pick me up. I could be in the shower and ready within half an hour. However, we have an appointment scheduled this afternoon, and canceling now would forfeit our deposit. We can reschedule for next week. Let's discuss. The call concluded then. Did she figure out it was you? I swallowed, feeling my throat dry unexpectedly as I faced her. I doubt it. She might perceive it as a negative omen, a premonition of what may transpire with the toy. She seems to assume or hope that I'm home. Upon spotting the drone, she immediately checked the Life 360 app on her phone to ascertain my location. Spotting the bewildered expression on the young mother's face, I grabbed my budget Kyocera prepaid phone. I purchased it from a convenience store this morning as my primary phone was charging at home and had calls forwarded to this one from Cunningham. I knew if she was shrewd enough to halt location tracking, she would verify my whereabouts if she saw the drone. Fortunately, I thought of that. If I hadn't feigned doubt, I would have lost that sense of uncertainty with her. For the first time in over 2 decades, I lied to my wife, something I'm not good at, yet I managed it. It was surprisingly effortless. She subtly remarked, "It seems strange for someone familiar with all this technology to use such a basic phone." I half nodded and returned a faint smile. I was plotting my next move when the girl's voice echoed again. "He's returning. I can see him." I had momentarily forgotten about my drone, but now I heard its motor hum. I checked the laptop screen and saw the battery level was at 37%. Just before the drone hovered, then landed on the ground barely 2 feet from where it took flight 20 minutes earlier. I deleted the flight plan, packed my base station and other equipment. Kate stood beside me and inquired about the glasses I wore. "I needed to conceal your eyes from me." "How do you perceive what the drone views?" "The glasses allow me to see what my drone sees." "Would you like to observe?" I inquired, looking at her mother, who consented. Yes, 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 Kate exclaimed, bouncing up and down. I advised her she might feel dizzy from the glasses, so it would be safer for her to sit on her mom's lap. You recall that watching the screen felt like being on an airplane. Well, these glasses will give you a genuine flying sensation. I attached the battery to the goggles and adjusted them on Kate's head. I asked if she was prepared, then switched on the transmitter and connected the battery to the drone. After checking with Kate, I triggered the drone's flight controller. The drone ascended, and Kate's cry of awe brought a smile to my face, despite a sense of heaviness in my heart. I maneuvered the drone over the picnic area and parking lot before Kate removed the goggles and urged her mother to try them. I retrieved the drone, landed it on the truck's tailgate, and began packing up. After everything was gathered, I noticed the young mother and her enthusiastic daughter at the picnic table. The young mother and I spoke simultaneously. Thank you. Thank you. I gave her a puzzled look, prompting her to speak. I can't explain why we came here today. We've never been here before, and I'm surprised Kate even talked to you. But more than that, I don't know why I didn't take Kate and leave when I saw you step out of your truck. However, you appeared so lost and in distress that I wasn't afraid, and I can't explain why I'm about to do what I'm going to do next. I know you have other things on your mind right now, but I wanted to thank you for making Kate feel valued for the past hour. She has never received positive attention from any man, and you gave her a sense of hope. My name is Samantha Kelly, but most people call me Sam. At this moment, I felt faint. My complexion must have paled because Samantha grew concerned. I lifted my right hand, showing her my palm and shaking my head. Are you all right? She inquired. I'm fine, was my response. Given more moments, I would clarify it for you. However, it's immaterial. I had no intention of discussing why my thoughts drifted upon noticing Kate's eyes. Additionally, I held back from sharing that I selected the name Samantha Caitlin for my potential daughter prior to meeting my spouse. Samantha gazed at me for a spell before grabbing the prepaid phone in my left hand. Don't use this device since I know you'll discard it once home, but prior to that, input this number into your personal phone. Before I could respond, she continued, when you decide to communicate with someone, send it to me so I can obtain your contact details as well. I passed her my hand with the request, show me your phone. As I added a new contact to her Samsung Galaxy S9, I offered a semi-jokingly appreciative smile. Thank you, Samantha. I'm grateful that both you and Kate were present today. I'm appreciative you didn't flee when you spotted my arrival, and moreover, I'm particularly pleased that Miss Kate addressed me first. Her smile could bring tranquility to the world. I'm unsure if I could manage being here alone, so thank you for everything. Becomes, I wouldn't be able to handle being here solo, so thanks for all your help. When can I fly in a plane again, Mr. Sean? Kate questioned. I don't know, Miss Kate, but possibly in the future. Changes to, Kate wondered when her next flight would be, Mr. Sean. I don't have an answer, but it might happen someday. I need to begin some things. I have a multitude of thoughts in my mind, and I foresee myself needing to discuss what's happening soon with someone. It would be pleasant if you were that person, and if you truly desire to talk, I'd appreciate a call from you. I might not have a fresh perspective for several reasons, but I understand your feelings, and I can certainly inform you of what lies ahead in the near future. I hope you decide to call. I look forward to hearing from you. Do bear in mind that despite the pain currently, it will worsen before it gets better. Ponder carefully before making any hasty decisions translates to, I'm going to start some projects as there are countless thoughts swirling in my head, and soon I may need to share what's happening with someone. If you wish to talk, I'd welcome your call. I might not offer a unique viewpoint for several reasons, but I can certainly share what to expect in the coming days. I hope you reach out. I'm excited to hear from you. Just remember that things may get worse before they improve. You might spend several weeks questioning yourself. I'd like to ask you, Samantha, do nail salons typically require a deposit when you sign up? None of the ones I visited did. They were just places to go, and I never made an appointment in advance. Thank you, Samantha. Stay safe. We'll speak again next week. On Main Street in Cartersville, I picked up a 2-inch ribeye steak at the butcher shop before heading home. If my life was going through changes, I decided to appreciate each moment. On the back deck, I sat in an Adirondack chair, waiting for the grill's coals to be ready, thinking about the past few days. The small, seemingly insignificant events from the last few months started coming to mind. The transformations were gradual and subtle, so much so that I failed to notice them. I recalled less affection and physical contact between us. I had discussed this with Sarah several times, but she kept saying she was tired and under pressure at work. For quite some time, our relationship hasn't been as close as it once was when we initially came together. I had resigned myself to the fact that our marriage had lost the spark it once held. I had hoped that now our son had moved out, we might rekindle that flame. However, my optimism waned, and now it has vanished completely. My marriage is indeed over. But I've been contemplating my next steps. Should I simply file for divorce and begin a new phase in my life, or should I create a scene as I depart? Am I prepared to face Sarah when she arrives home, or should I wait until my plans are set before confronting her? I wish to discuss these matters with Donovan, our son who serves on a US Navy nuclear submarine. Yet, he's on duty and could be anywhere in the world, making contact uncertain for up to 6 months. Therefore, I don't know when he will receive word from home. Where would I reside? Disliked was the house Sarah fell for upon our wedding. Instead, a cabin would suit me fine as our mortgage neared completion, leaving us funds to divide in our upcoming divorce. One thing was certain, neither an apartment complex nor urban living appealed to me. Rural housing was my preference, whether an antiquated countryside home to renovate or an open plot near a local river or lake for custom boathouse construction. The boat I was crafting would find its place there too. In another scenario, I might opt for the trout rivers of northern Georgia's mountains as my new residence. Hardships may come, but when they pass, I knew contentment would return, along with a fulfilling life. With banks closing at midday, there was no financial separation until Monday. Canceling Verizon and Xfinity services online seemed feasible next week post filing the divorce documents. Should have immediately contacted Ted to draft and submit the divorce documents upon court reopening on Monday. As I dialed his number, I braced myself for his shock. Neither Ted nor I anticipated such deceit from Sarah. Yet, over half a year of suspicion had to culminate in doubts. I couldn't fathom she concealed such a colossal secret from everyone. I resolved to contact others to see if they sensed anything amiss. Sean, what's the news? Are you ready for our fishing trip? The cabin is ruined, but I managed to reel in some spectacular rainbow trout from the Toccoa River this year. Looks like we'll go sooner than planned. Actually, no, it's neither a fishing nor a work matter. Seems serious. Let's hope there were no issues at work. I haven't received any bad news yet. No, not work. And believe me, it's far more dire than you can imagine. It's about Sarah. Please don't let it be Sarah. I apologize. I wish it weren't so. But yes, it's Sarah. I need you to file the papers as soon as feasible. On Monday morning, if possible, let's keep things swift and straightforward. Could you manage this case? My current focus is criminal defense, but a decade or so back, I primarily dealt with divorce cases. If I can assist you, please provide the details and what transpired. It's crucial to know if this situation stems from her actions or if you found someone else, believing the grass is greener. If it's the latter, I may suggest another attorney. I've always desired Sarah. I have irrefutable evidence that she was with 2 men on a boat at Lake Altoona today, an affair that's been ongoing for at least 6 weeks. To clarify, she was indeed physically involved. Yes, beyond doubt, not mistaken or false information. The video proof is from a few hours ago. How did you obtain the video? Who provided it to you? I captured it myself using a drone I constructed after the shooting last year, the one we attempted to secure funding for. I see. We'll need to examine the legal aspect of acquiring this video without a warrant. Have we gone over the rules before? I assume so, given they were publicly displayed on 2 connected boats during daytime, visible to anyone around the lake or overhead. If this account is accurate, then there should be no issue with utilizing the video. Regarding evidence rules, they differ between civil and criminal cases. Good that you adhered to the law. Let's discuss dividing our possessions next. I propose an equal division. Personal belongings remain with their owners. We'll split joint accounts 50-50, and there will be no alimony since she earns double my salary. We'll evaluate the house and property, and she can pay me my half, or we sell and share the proceeds. Each of us keeps our retirement savings, as our son is grown and serving in the military, so no child support payments are required. We retain our vehicles and small items like phones, and each takes care of their own bills. I don't wish to cover her expenses or claim any of her belongings. It appears you may be discussing a lawsuit for dissolving the marriage. However, many states have moved away from this practice now. Georgia is one such state that does not allow it. An older rule applies here. Let's proceed. This appears equitable to me. Thank you. How much for an initial payment, and I'll offer a family discount. Don't fret. Thank you. I'm grateful. Thanks a million for your assistance. However, I can't grant special treatment to just anyone. Equality is crucial. There shouldn't be any bias involved. I'm investigating potential defenses where your influence might be relevant. I can't risk compromising any case I'm handling. This is a boundary I won't cross under any circumstances. Although this opportunity is enticing, please understand that not all lawyers are unscrupulous. Strong ethics hold significant importance for me. I'll provide you with the best representation, and my services will be readily available. Let's maintain this as purely a friendly gesture. Thank you, I responded. Hey, no misconception, I'm not being difficult, but could you send the video you mentioned? It might be significant for negotiations. Yes, I understand. I'll forward it immediately. I just need to get my laptop from home. From home? Where are you now? I'm on the patio, waiting for the grill to warm up. You purchased a steak for dinner and are preparing it here. When will Sarah return? Not today. She's staying overnight at her friend Jessica's. They might visit the lake. I don't expect her today unless something alters her plans due to fear. How about you bring the steak and come over to your place instead? We can watch the video together. You can demonstrate your drone and its features. Perhaps one day I may employ you as a private investigator. Do you have extra potatoes and bread? You have baking potatoes and mushrooms, but no bread. In that case, I'll pick up some Texas toast. This sounds wonderful. I have some amber beer in the workshop refrigerator and a nearly full bottle of Woodford Reserve. I'll arrive in 30 minutes. As the coals were nearing whiteness, I realized they would burn out before Ted arrived. So I added more coal to the grill. Then I went into the kitchen to wash another potato, wrap it in foil. I arranged the table on the terrace with plates and cutlery near the grill. I inspected the grill a second time, observing that the charcoal had transformed to white and positioned them in about a third of the grilling area. I placed the potatoes on another region of the grill and secured the lid. As the potatoes cooked, I brought my laptop and drone outside. Upon Ted's arrival, we seasoned our steaks with oil, salt, pepper, garlic, and a hint of onion powder before initiating their grilling. What level of doneness do you prefer for your steak, Ted? Let's have it cooked more than medium rare this time. I chuckled. Indeed, I know someone who claims that an ideal steak should resemble something still capable of walking away. So here is the drone you mentioned earlier. Correct, it comes with 6 motors and rotating blades. No, I didn't purchase it. Instead, I assembled the components myself. Ted gave a sly smile and shook his head gently. Let's take a look at this video. I adjusted the laptop to allow us both a clear view. The recording began with the drone on the grass facing the lake. It ascended into the sky, turned left to display the lake, made a 360-degree spin before halting. Who are this woman and child? I believed you weren't dating, Ted questioned. I wasn't acquainted with them, I replied. They were having a picnic by the lake when I showed up. Katie, the girl, was intrigued by the drone and wished to observe it in flight. The footage subsequently ascended and traversed the lake toward a marina. It veered left, headed east briefly, then turned right again, moving south. The drone flew over hills and trees, entered a bay, and displayed 2 vessels. The scene on the boats was distinct as the drone orbited and descended, maintaining the camera focused on the individuals below. "Do you recognize anyone other than Sarah?" Ted inquired. "Yes, that's Jessica, Sarah's divorced acquaintance, and the man next to the woman wearing a hat is Sarah's superior, Paul Sutton. The other men are unknown, but I saw at least two of them at the country club last week. They were discussing real estate investments at the bar. James was discussing a reliable real estate agent with Frank, who was standing behind Sarah, about finding him an ideal home. The pieces fell into place, though understanding the truth didn't bring comfort. Following dinner, I demonstrated the hexacopter's operation to Ted. We conversed about its potential uses, including surveillance and other purposes. Once Ted departed, I pondered our conversation. I recalled additional topics needing discussion with him in the near future before preparing for bed. That night, I slept on my own as I hadn't anticipated Sarah returning home, yet found myself accepting it. This troubled me. I wondered why I wasn't more distraught over Sarah's betrayal when presented with clear evidence earlier. Initially, I felt nauseous, but now only numbness washed over me. How could I lose affection for someone I had been with for over 2 decades so swiftly and effortlessly? Why didn't I spot the blatant signs sooner? They were certainly evident, particularly during the past month. In investigative education, educators advise against employing specific methods on your loved ones since they're ineffective due to familiarity that breeds comfort. The required tension for uncovering concealed wrongdoing is absent. Frequently, these techniques yield misleading findings when applied to a trusting subject. People find it hard to accept their partners could deceive them. Yet, faced with irrefutable evidence, an individual has two possible responses. Some suggest there are additional choices, but I'm skeptical. The first is accepting the infidelity and staying, attempting reconciliation or tolerating the behavior. The second is acknowledging what transpired and allowing the partner to bear the consequences of their actions. Rather than reacting with rage and leaving a chaotic wake, I chose a more calculated response. I wasn't ready to stay, waiting for an apology while anticipating future betrayals. I won't tolerate her infidelity again. This phase is concluded. It's time for me to advance. I unexpectedly woke up early on Sunday morning, possibly not sleeping at all. Before the sun broke through the windows on the eastern side of the house, I was already up and preparing to leave. I hastily prepared a breakfast consisting of bacon, eggs, and toast. In the middle of eating, I contacted my longtime associate, Detective Jim Wheeler, and shared the recent developments. As anticipated, he was taken aback. During our dialogue, I informed him about Sarah's workplace and my discovery of her deceit. I had suspected she'd been unfaithful for at least 6 weeks, perhaps even 4 months. Additionally, I mentioned that I had already started packing my belongings and intended to vacate as soon as a suitable new location was found, even if it was just a motel. "Is Sarah employed at Sutton Real Estate on Broad Street?" Jim inquired. "Yes, she's been there approximately 6 months. You must contact Detective Stephanie Conrad from the city." Stephanie Conrad. I do recognize her. We don't interact much, but have exchanged pleasantries. Why should I engage with her? You need to meet her. She requires viewing the video you created. I'll transmit her contact details to you shortly. Speak with her immediately upon hanging up. I will call to check if she's on duty today or on call. Oh, she's currently home. You'll receive her business card soon. It has just been sent to your phone. My device signaled a text message alert. I stored the information as a new contact. I have saved her contact details. I will call her once we finish our conversation. So, what's with Conrad? How do you have her direct line, and how do you know she's off today? Why must I present my video to her? We went out on a few dates before I started seeing Rachel, and Detective Conrad has been probing Sutton Real Estate for a couple of months now. There's gossip that they are operating an illicit brothel as part of their sales strategy. If your information is correct, it might not be mere gossip. I need to make more phone calls and find temporary lodging until I secure a permanent place. Yes, I'll call Conrad. By the way, do you know David Hunter? Jim inquired. He's a sergeant on day shift. I mentioned that he has a house by the river or a camper nearby that might be rented out. You should give him a call. It could be ideal for you until you find something permanent. Thank you for your help. I appreciate it. We should meet up soon for fishing or a barbecue. You can bring the beer. After ending the call, I decided to contact David Hunter first. Hello? Hi, Dave. How are you? I'm all right, Gilmore. Just keeping an eye on things regarding current public opinion towards police. How about you? To be honest, not good. I just found out Sarah has been unfaithful for some time now, and I'm moving out. They told me you have a rental property by the river. Yes, it's just off Hardin Bridge Road. Are you familiar with it? Yes, I am. I'm unsure of the duration, only until I secure a more permanent solution. Ideally, I'd like to retrieve my belongings before lunchtime today if convenient, preferably before Sarah arrives home. That works for me. When can I expect your arrival at the location? I glanced at my watch. It was 7:43 am. I've mostly gathered my clothes and personal items. I don't require much. Most of my essentials are in the workshop, so I'll need to retrieve my tools and equipment later, once I find a suitable storage solution. At the Hardin Bridge site, there stands an old barn with a dirt floor and crumbling walls, but the roof is sound and it remains dry inside. It lacks electricity, but it provides temporary storage for tools and other items that won't fit in the camper until you secure another location. That sounds perfect. I can arrive within an hour to hand over the keys if that suits you. After he provided the address and directions to a property gate without markings, I ended the call. Upon my arrival, Dave was stationed at a livestock gate, traversing a wild tangle of blackberries, honeysuckle, and cedar trees, guiding me towards a small open space adjoining what appeared to be an ancient house that had either burned down or been demolished. He escorted me crosswise over the clearing, following a barely perceptible trail, eventually leading us about 50 yards into the woodland on the opposite side. Tucked away in a grove was a sleek and well-maintained camper trailer, 25 feet in length, with slide-outs and a retractable awning. The camper was perched on the riverbank, roughly 20 feet above the water. I exited the truck, shook Dave's hand, and exclaimed, "Wow, I might choose to stay here. It's breathtaking." He responded, "I may consider selling this entire property if someone extends a reasonable offer. The idea has been on my mind for years, but I could never bring myself to let a stranger manage it. If you're sincere, perhaps we can discuss it once you've concluded that current case in the coming weeks." "That's fine. Here are your keys." The rental charge encompasses electricity costs, but you must replenish the propane for the heater and stove. The water source is a 250 feet deep well, yielding clean and palatable water. Allow me to guide you to the gray water tank. There's no septic system installed here. When nearly full, disconnect the hose for easy disposal. You can do so near the boat dock with free removal services. It's owned by the county. I wish to offload my belongings and collect as much of my tools and gear as I can before Sarah arrives home. Upon seeing her, I prefer to minimize trips back to the house, as self-control concerns me. Although I manage well in keeping things distinct and controlling my temper, I'd rather avoid unnecessary risks. Fortunately, my apprehensions proved unwarranted. I made 2 additional trips, securing enough items to ensure that if I obtained no more from the house, I wouldn't be disappointed. I put my tools and boat in a spacious shed on the waterfront property, then resumed my spot by the riverbank. By 4 p.m., there was still no word from Sarah. In a foldable chair around a small fire pit, with a beer in hand and watching the stream flow, I recalled that I had promised to contact Stephanie Conrad. I picked up the phone and dialed her number. "Hello? Hi, Detective Conrad. How are you tonight? Gilmore Wheeler said you'd call, but I expected it sooner." "Yes, my apologies for the delay. I was busy moving today and couldn't get to it earlier." He didn't share much details. He mentioned you have a video that I need to see urgently, said it's related to one of my ongoing investigations. That's what he told me too. I can meet you tomorrow if you prefer, either at your office or for lunch somewhere. I'd like to see the video today, if possible. I hesitated. considering it had been a long day. "You've proposed a prolonged break, but I'm fatigued and have imbibed a couple of beers already. I'm swamped tonight, though. It's fine if you come to me. Just tell me your current location." I inquired, smirking as I said this. "Are you far enough outside town to find Hardin Bridge Road off Highway 411? We exchanged light laughter, then she responded, "Yes, even with Google Maps, we can locate places these days." Later on, I asked if you've had dinner yet, and you hadn't. You mentioned needing to go shopping before preparing anything reminiscent of a meal. She agreed to arrive in an hour, instructing me to call when I take Hardin Bridge Road, at which point she would meet me at the gate on the right side, approximately 2.5 miles from the highway. An hour and 20 minutes later, I shut the gate behind a 6-7-year-old white Ford Expedition, guiding it to my trailer by the river. A petite woman stepped from the driver's side, appearing attractive in jeans and a loose sweater. Her shoulder-length hair and vibrant green eyes captivated me as she retrieved a yellow container and a pack of Guinness Stout from the truck. "I brought Cajun fried chicken and authentic beer, since I assumed you prefer stronger beverages over light ones," she commented. I grinned. "While seldom consumed, when I drink, my limit is Ewingling. Earlier today, I had an amber bock, but I appreciate stout." We retreated to the camper to dine without insects, such as mosquitoes and flies. Following our meal, Stephanie inquired about my knowledge regarding her probe into Sutton real estate. "Minimal," was my response. "All I know is that someone is handling business for the agency. My wife works there, and this weekend I discovered she's been unfaithful for some time." Upon hearing this, Stephanie paled noticeably. "Oh no, not Sarah Gilmore," she reacted. Stephanie admitted, "I didn't realize the connection." She glanced at the table in deep thought. "She's been unfaithful for nearly a month now," she continued. "It appears they've been preparing her for their operation for months. I believe she completely became a part of it around 3 weeks back, at a party with some real estate agency clients." I stared out the window, feeling my marriage was disintegrating, and responded, "She told me she spent the last 6 Saturdays at Jessica Walker's father's house in Kingston." Stephanie approached the fridge, retrieved 2 beers, and returned. Handing one to me, we filled our glasses. "That might be true for the initial 3 weekends, but I think she did something else the last 2, Stephanie suggested. "She was enjoying time with other women from the real estate agency," I replied. "And you're saying she did it again this weekend?" Stephanie nodded in affirmation. "Yes," she said, "on several boats in a bay on Lake Altoona." "That seems plausible," I signed. "No reports of their actions in town over the weekend." She appeared deep in thought, idly spinning a beer can between her hands before speaking up again. "My investigation is progressing, and I can't exclude your wife when I press charges. She already faces at least half a dozen indictments." "What are the accusations?" I inquired. Stephanie hesitated, then met my gaze squarely. "Prostitution, violating the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. Potentially more as we analyze the evidence. She will be taken into custody along with everyone else." Her eyes held a tinge of sadness, almost empathetic towards me. "Keep her apart," I said. "I'm not instructing you to shield her. She made her decision. Let her bear the penalties." Stephanie paused, nodded, and requested to see the video. Upon its conclusion, I copied it onto a flash drive from my bag and handed it over to her. She stated that alone, it wasn't convincing, but when combined with other proof, it would be compelling. The individual shared details of their investigation, initiating from a complaint by a competing real estate agent. A prospective client had inquired if they would be open to sweetening a deal for a property transaction, a practice known at Sutton's agency. Upon asking for clarification, the client explained that successful agents at Sutton's were women as they engaged in sexual acts to secure deals. The agent then ejected the client and contacted the authorities. Stephanie took charge of the case. Investigations unveiled that Sutton was illegally dealing substances and running a covert trafficking operation within the real estate agency. Plans were made to include 3 additional agencies in their warrant applications. Stephanie and her superior officer were collaborating with the district attorney, contemplating how to manage the case without stirring up turmoil in the community. Fear of doubt among many families could lead to an increase in domestic issues reports. She mentioned that the investigators and district attorneys were planning to initiate the warrant procedure within a week or so, using the video as evidence. It was growing late, and we had almost finished the beer. Stephanie inquired if she could spend the night since she couldn't drive. To be honest, I don't want to seem impolite or make you uncomfortable, but the only sleeping arrangement I can provide is a rather uncomfortable folding bed, I said. Despite Sarah's actions, I've never violated my vows. Until all the paperwork is completed and the court order issued, I remain married. I apologize if I'm overthinking, but we are both somewhat intoxicated, and it's easy to make poor decisions at this moment. Stephanie responded, I understand. My alternative would be to sleep in my truck until I sober up, but let's revisit this when things calm down a bit, she added. That sounds reasonable, I asked. Do you have a bag with you? She replied. No, I have a bag at home, but nothing in my truck. There is a large shirt you can wear if you want. Have you observed the detachable shower head attached to the pipe on the bathroom wall? The entire space is a shower area. Feel free to use it first. I'm uncertain how long the hot water supply will last. I'll lower the table and arrange your sleeping space while you wrap up in the bathroom. Upon Stephanie's emergence from the bathroom, she was adorning my vintage Pink Floyd "Wish You Were Here" tee that barely covered her ankles. It was at this moment that I noticed how effectively her sweater had concealed her physique. My earlier thoughts about us sharing a bed started to resurface, but then I understood that these thoughts underscored the importance of maintaining some space between us. What time do you need to report for work in the morning? I inquired. She mentioned 9 o'clock as her arrival time, which implied breakfast would be served around 7. This timing allowed her ample hours to return home and dress appropriately for work. Subsequently, I retreated to my own bedroom and reclined, feeling both drowsy and contemplative. On a chilly Monday morning, I found myself with a parched throat and a mild headache, oddly not from a hangover. Heading towards the compact bedroom at the camper's end, I aimed to commence my day. Upon arriving at the stove, I was greeted by Stephanie, still adorning my Pink Floyd t-shirt and nothing else. As she turned to face me, she smiled and greeted me warmly. Good morning, she said, adding, however, it's unfair and unkind to make me sleep on an uncomfortable mound of pillows. If you intend to play pranks like that in the future, she continued, still smiling. I glanced down and then realized my oversight. I was bare below the waist. My preoccupation with reaching the bathroom had led me to forget to don any clothing. Bashful, I retreated to my room, swapping the nakedness for running shorts and a t-shirt. Upon returning, I expressed my regret for my inadvertent disrobing to Stephanie. Don't bother apologizing, she said with a grin. I assure you, it doesn't faze me. We quickly had breakfast and dressed up. Stephanie wore the jeans she had donned the previous day beneath my t-shirt. Zipping up her jeans, she fixed a playful smile on me while we were wrapping our morning routine. Closing the gate behind us, we parted ways, with Stephanie likely heading home to freshen up for work. Arriving at the office ahead of my fellow detectives, I began scouring open cases, managing 36 active tasks and singling out 5 as priorities for the day. Glimpsing at my phone, it showed a dozen text messages unread, 16 missed calls, and 9 voicemails. Recognizing that Sarah had not reached me due to my muted phone ringtone, I listened to the messages and found them transitioning from angry to sad, culminating in one where Sarah was sobbing and requesting my return home. The text echoed the same emotional arc. In response, I messaged her that I was occupied and would speak with her if time allowed later. Close to 10 a.m., I dialed Parker, Kilgore, and Hughes law firm, asking for Ted's office. Ted Kilgore's office. How may I assist you? Came the secretary's reply. I wish to speak with Ted. This is Sean Gilmore. He's expecting my call. My response was given. A moment, please, she responded. Sean, how are you today? Anything amusing since our last conversation? Ted questioned. No, Ted. I relocated and currently rent a camper near you. I haven't seen Sarah in person since Friday, only virtually, I stated. Did you contact her? Ted asked. She bombarded my phone with messages yesterday and today. I promised to speak with her tonight if possible, I told him. Avoid retaliating against her. Let me handle it through the court. Did you manage to send the documents this morning? Ted inquired. No, they will be submitted tomorrow, probably afternoon, I replied. All right, we need to meet again. There have been some updates since Saturday. Are you acting for anyone associated with Sarah? I questioned. No, no one from Sutton Real Estate has approached me, Ted confirmed. Understood. Keep me informed when the documents are submitted, I said. Ted agreed with the plan. After the call ended, I departed the office to interview some witnesses for my cases. For a while, thoughts of Sarah and Sutton Real Estate were kept at bay. As I had arrived early, I left at 4:30 p.m., heading towards the river. Before reaching there, I stopped at a grocery store to buy sufficient food for the weekend. I opted for minimal refrigerated items to see how much could be stored. Upon returning to my camper, I organized the groceries and changed into loose shorts and a tank top, ready to unwind. All of Sarah's calls and texts were ignored today, but it was decided that it was time to contact her. A face-to-face conversation rather than a phone or messaging discussion seemed necessary due to our recent dispute. I had no intention of avoiding her or our issues. Just as I prepared to dial her number, Stephanie contacted me. Hello, detective, she said. Hey, Gilmore, are you near the office? No, I'm at home. I plan on relaxing tonight. What's up? Are you at our shared house? Stephanie asked. I clarified. Actually, I'm at the river house currently. This is where I reside. She replied, Oh, in that case, could I visit tonight? I can bring dinner. I agreed, adding, By the way, do you prefer fried pork chops? To which she responded, I adore them. I assured her, Good, then I'll prepare an extra one. The gate will be open. Make sure to close it after entering. She confirmed, Understood. Before hanging up, I called Sarah. She picked up immediately. Sean, where are you? She asked. I don't need to return just yet, was my response. You made your decision, and I have mine. I tried to warn you about the gravity of the situation, but you ignored it. You prioritized work over us, disrespecting me. She insisted, Sean, please come home. I reiterated, I won't discuss a certain matter or my investigation for a few days. It's part of your request. She agreed not to bring up the subject until we meet. See you in an hour, she said. After ending the call, I dialed Sarah again. I didn't concur, thus I departed, awaiting resolution of the matter. It wasn't about that device or whatever it is. It merely serves as an instrument. I chose to leave because you emotionally abandoned me weeks or even months ago. I'm simply offering you space and moving forward with my life. Couldn't help but chuckle at your suggestion. Are you really implying that I've been thinking of someone else since we met? Perhaps it would be wise to inquire about your loyalty, but I doubt your sincerity on the matter. There was an uncomfortable silence. Sarah was likely trying to gauge how much I knew. I assumed as much, I said. Sarah, I never cut it out immediately, I interrupted. Don't dare claim you've always loved me or remained faithful. I'm finished with this. You can't leave me. We've been married for 20 years. We have a grown son. Her voice was close to tears. Let's arrange our discussion for either this week's end or during the weekend. I prefer a face-to-face conversation rather than over the phone. We both deserve more. I'll reach out to you soon, but feel free to start searching for a lawyer in the meantime. After ending the call, I headed to the trailer to marinate 2 thick pork chops in soy sauce and herbs, preparing them for the grill when Stephanie arrived. Subsequently, I delved into the next few chapters of Dan Brown's Origin, the 5th book in the Robert Langdon series, while playing The Water Below. As I lit the grill, Stephanie pulled up. She emerged from her car with a pack of beer, donning yoga pants and an overly large blouse. Despite its size, it subtly suggested some self-doubt. However, she looked appealing to me. She flashed me a smile. I'll be back in a moment. She entered the trailer and reappeared a few minutes later, still smiling and offering 2 bottles of beer. She handed one to me. You remembered my preference for beer last night, and I appreciate it. You selected 2 of my favorite brews. I don't drink much alcohol regularly, but I do enjoy beer. I also like wine more than you might think. I noticed a hint of concern on your face. Rest assured, I'll still provide dinner. Earlier, you mentioned needing a favor. Have you spoken to your wife about it tonight? For a long time, you were married to each other, correct? Yes, but I doubt we will reunite in the future. This left me bewildered. It wasn't clear why she was attempting to reconcile us. Sarah, my spouse, had never spoken of her as a friend. The dialogue felt odd, and I found it uncomfortable. Is this the task you need completed, since I can't assist with that? No, that's not the task. I just wanted to know your intentions. The task arises if you genuinely intend to file for divorce. I have already initiated the process. My lawyer drafted the documents today, and they will be filed tomorrow. I wish to deliver them to her at work as soon as possible. I also want to inform Sutton about his actions. Are you filing for divorce due to infidelity? Yes, so here's the actual task. Stephanie seemed deep in thought. I waited patiently for her to speak. She eventually said, "Why don't you check if the grill is ready and we can begin dinner? Then we can continue our conversation." After setting up the grill, I returned to assist Stephanie with food preparation: red potatoes, corn, asparagus seasoned with garlic for our grilled chops. I took the marinated chops outside to cook them first. Soon after, Stephanie emerged with 2 fresh bottles, handing one to me. Later on, she confided, "I met with the district attorney today. We plan to charge all 4 real estate agencies, but we require a video for that. If you file for divorce now and use this video as evidence, it'll expose our secrets prematurely. However, their lawyers will seize everything we have regardless. But delaying the seizure gives us an advantage." To which I responded, "Are you suggesting we prioritize the many over the few?" Stephanie smiled knowingly, and I chuckled at her reference to a familiar saying. Stephanie commented that The Wrath of Khan is one of the best Star Trek films, but she prefers the TV series and found Spock particularly impressive. After pondering, I ambled towards the riverbank, my gaze fixed on the flowing water. Pieces of her words lingered in my mind. The burden seemed heavy. Eventually, I returned to our trailer, contemplating a night of excessive imbibing. "Fancy another round?" I queried. "Indeed. A stout this time. What about you?" "I'm flexible." I cleaned the glasses from last evening and filled them with Guinness. The potatoes and corn in the oven were my next concern, followed by blanching the asparagus. Back outside, I built a fire within a stone circle where our chairs lay. If I filed for a divorce, I'd need to wait at least 30 days before anyone could leave without addressing her infidelity. If I delay filing for divorce due to her pending trial, it might take months or years. Even if she is found guilty, that's not guaranteed. You don't need to wait that long. The DA suggests a maximum of 1 week. We plan to file search warrants against all 4 departments simultaneously to gather additional evidence. We can serve you with papers by Friday at the latest, but no later than mid-next week. Let me ponder it before our meal." Agreed. To dodge mosquitoes and flies, we opted to eat indoors. Our chat was relaxed and informal. I appreciated the casual atmosphere between us. "Is basketball, soccer, or volleyball your preference?" "No, not softball. It's one of those 3, or perhaps all of them." "What about softball?" you inquired. "You don't seem like a softball player, but you played one of the others. What if I told you I was a cheerleader and didn't enjoy rough sports? You would be misleading me. You admire team sports due to competition, and you were never a cheerleader." You smiled in response. Discussed basketball and soccer after dinner, then switched topics to discuss burning driftwood outside, planning to contact Kilgore for a petition delay until Friday afternoon. Suggestion made to serve summons to Sarah next week, allowing time to obtain search warrants for important documents before potential destruction. Conversation also included mention of Ted Kilgore handling a divorce case and his recognition of two men with Sarah on a boat from Kilgore's country club, which was mentioned prior to knowledge about the investigation. He affirmed he considers me his primary client and denies any connections with individuals in the video or Sutton agency. However, I'm unsure about your investigation, so I can't confirm. I trust him not to jeopardize your case, but the decision lies with you. I wanted you to know he's involved, I stated. Yes, that's valuable information. I will have to discuss it with the district attorney. I would prefer not to be informed about your execution timeline for the warrants, and given my connection, I should keep a distance, she responded. I concur, I said. With time, our conversation became silent as we listened to the night sounds. It's getting late. If you wish, you can stay again. Are you planning to act as an informant again? I asked, hoping she comprehended. Stephanie, all I have is my word. Regardless of Sarah's actions, I made a commitment. Until the paperwork is submitted and she is notified, I must honor my pledge. If I don't, I become untrustworthy, she explained. If I break my promise, I am no better than a traitor. Your interest pleases me greatly, yet it required immense self-control not to invite you into the bedroom this afternoon. I look forward to more shared nights soon. However, tonight I must scout out. You may sleep in the bedroom while I make use of the fold-out bed. I finished with a smile. She seemed slightly disappointed, but her tone held a hint of happiness. I hope you still own that pink Floyd shirt, as I forgot the other one at home. I can certainly find an alternative for you, I responded. I ensured the fire was safely extinguished and the coals were secure before folding the chairs and covering them. We then entered to prepare for bed. How did you know I wasn't a cheerleader? She inquired. Were you one? No, she replied. Yet you wear baggy tops while displaying your legs and derriere comfortably in shorts or yoga pants. Most cheerleaders I have met enjoy showcasing their chests. Incidentally, you are wearing my pink Floyd shirt. You're beautiful, and you shouldn't conceal that fact. She flashed a smile, trying to hide her embarrassment as she glanced at her fingers. The next morning, I was awakened by the sound of my bedroom door clicking shut. Stephanie smiled as she strolled past my bed towards the bathroom. A few moments later, she reappeared wearing my old black Led Zeppelin tee. It's your responsibility to prepare breakfast now, she chuckled before returning to the bedroom. The notion appealed to me, so I got up, donned my gym shorts, and preheated the oven. I arranged some bacon on a tray and then attended to my morning ablutions in the bathroom. Upon my return, Stephanie was at the sink, breaking eggs into a bowl. Too many cooks spoil the broth, I quipped. I know, but you were taking too long, she replied with a grin. After breakfast, she inquired if I was still postponing the filing for divorce. Of course, I'll contact Ted when I reach the office. I expect to meet Sarah after work tonight. I want this ordeal to end as quickly as possible. Could I explore the barn later and potentially transform it into a workshop? I queried. She inquired if I intended to extend my stay here. I affirmed that I believe so. I appreciate this place. Hunter mentioned he might consider selling if I wanted to remain. Perhaps I ought to discuss it with him. As she cleaned the table, she said it seemed fitting for me. I smiled and tucked away the last dishes. Uncertain how our conversation with Sarah would impact me tonight, I hoped I didn't give a misleading impression. I'm not pursuing a romantic relationship, I explained. I prefer to have fun and find jealousy challenging. I've noticed you observing me these past days. When we eventually meet, I suspect our nights will be restless. I'm not aiming for anything monogamous. Your dedication to important matters appeals to me, and I enjoy teasing you. Your admirable standards highlight your noble character and make you even more attractive. She suggested that the place would draw numerous single women from Floyd and Bartow counties soon. She chuckled. Just keep in mind, it was me who expressed interest in you initially. She winked. I returned her smile covertly. True, but I wasn't the first to show interest in me. Is that so? Well, I'll have to make more of an effort then. We chuckled and completed our cleaning tasks. I'll be back momentarily, Stephanie stated as she exited. Upon her return, she carried a duffel bag and a hanger bag. As I tucked my shirt into my trousers, I inquired, "So, did you come prepared this time? Did you forget your nightwear? I prefer sleeping in a man's shirt. Specifically, a long-sleeved button-down shirt. Hint, hint, understood." "I don't like wrinkles from hangers," she replied, placing the bags on the bed. I laughed. "You're tempting fate. If I wanted to lead you into trouble, I would do it blatantly in front of you, or at least leave the door open with such words." She closed the door. I unlocked the gate that she passed through while chatting via the open window. "I won't go out tonight. Call me if you need to chat." "Understood." I shut the gate after me and moved toward my office. I surveyed the task board, selected the most pressing matters, and initiated communications and investigations. At 10 in the morning, I phoned my attorney to postpone the submission of my divorce petition until Friday afternoon, sharing the basic details. During lunch, I called Sarah to suggest a rendezvous at the city's waterfront park. I promised to bring takeout so we could discuss our marriage. She sounded more tranquil than anticipated, and we confirmed a meeting time and location. All in all, it was a fruitful day. I resolved one case as exceptionally cleared, another as unfounded, and issued arrest warrants in two others. A promising lead surfaced in a fifth case, but it had to wait until the witness returned from their vacation, which is in about 2 weeks. As the day ended, I discovered that I was assigned two new theft cases and one child abuse case. Being a detective involves constant cycles of work, and often people question why we don't recognize problems in our personal lives until it's too late. Our minds are full of cases and complications, leaving no room for suspicion towards our partners, the one person we should trust blindly. I left work early, picked up soup, salad, and fresh bread from Outback, and met Sarah on the boardwalk. We opted for a clean picnic table. Despite her melancholic expression, she seemed resigned. I wanted us to savor our meal before addressing the difficult aspects of our discussion. Yet, our appetite was minimal. Our conversations were brief, neither wanting to delve too deeply. As I watched Sarah stir her soup, I pushed my half-eaten food back into its container. Sarah indicated we were reaching a critical point and placed her spoon down, looking off in the distance. "Isn't it too late now?" "Yes, it is." "How much have you learned?" "A bit. You've been deceiving and being unfaithful to me for several weeks now, and your disregard for me started much earlier. Didn't I see you by the lake?" "Yes, it was me. I knew it was you all along. After our call, I became certain. When we ended the conversation, I informed Paul that you had lied to me for the first time. I couldn't meet you Saturday night. Instead, I stayed at a motel. I couldn't go to Jessica's either. I understand it doesn't make a difference, but I'm sorry. I'm not just sorry for getting caught. I regret making those choices. In retrospect, they weren't worth the risk. The costs often exceed our expectations. If you witnessed what happened at the lake, there's more to this than just a divorce. Law enforcement officials arrived with warrants, seized account records, and questioned everyone. It seems something serious is going on. How much time do I have? I'm not directly involved, except with you. All I can say is hire a competent lawyer, and if someone extends an opportunity to you, it might be beneficial to consider. Thank you. I may reach out to Ted Kilgore. Ted cannot assist in this situation. He currently works for you. Yes, he possesses necessary documents. He may reach out to you within the upcoming week. I feel it's important for you to understand that you've done nothing wrong. I admit I made poor decisions driven by restlessness and succumbing to misguiding influences. Deep inside, I suspected they were deceiving me. That's why I reacted angrily when you revealed Jessica's true character. However, the truth is, I was angry with myself, not you. I acknowledge that you were right. I felt ashamed because I allowed myself to be distracted and then unfairly took it out on you. You were a dreamer, and contrary to my words last weekend, the world needs more individuals like you. I believe that's why you never grew bored like I did. I suspect Ted will send me the papers. I plan to sign them tonight. Whenever we meet again, I apologize. I love you dearly, but regretfully, I allowed things to slide. You may keep the house. I no longer envision residing there. I'm not keen on it either, due to an abundance of memories. Let's put it up for sale and divide the proceeds. If you feel this is best for you, I agree. However, I'm unsure about the longevity of my license, but I will arrange for an appraisal and list it for sale. How urgently do you wish to sell? Just ensure a new owner can claim it as their home. Whatever works for you. I mentioned that I would contact Donovan and set up a Zoom meeting when he's free, so we can share the news together. This should make it easier for him than receiving it from someone uninformed. She nodded, her eyes moistening. Then she walked to her car and drove away. I collected our rubbish and discarded it in the dumpster before getting into my truck and returning home. Upon arriving home, I seated myself in a portable chair by the river. I called Stephanie and shared with her about my meeting with Sarah. She corroborated Sarah's statement regarding search warrants and conceded that postponing the divorce was no longer feasible. The extent of her sentiment wasn't clear, but I contacted Ted after discussing it with Stephanie. My attorney guaranteed he would submit the documents on Wednesday morning and deliver the notice to Sarah in the afternoon. As daylight waned, I found myself captivated by watching the river flow from that folding chair. I contemplated making another call and glanced at my phone contacts. "Hello, Mr. B," a soft voice replied. "Well, hello to you too, Miss Katie. How are you today?" "I'm well. Would you like to speak with my mother? She's here." "Certainly. It was pleasant talking to you, Miss Katie." "All right. Hello. I wasn't expecting your call so soon. I'm pleased." "Indeed, much has occurred in the past few days, and I thought it would be nice to chat when I'm less discombobulated and agitated. How are you?" "Things are calm here. There's nothing extraordinary happening." "How are you? Have you been managing things well?" "Yes, I moved last Sunday. My lawyer has completed the necessary paperwork, and Sarah will be notified tomorrow afternoon." "Did she know what was happening?" "Yes, we met today and discussed everything. She agreed to sign the papers when she receives them and won't contest it." Samantha inquired if I would try to extract every penny from the situation. "I just want a fresh start for both of us, and I believe she has more pressing issues than just the divorce." "Understand." She wanted to discuss it further. "Maybe we can talk about it later this week when things are clearer, as I'm not currently embroiled in this conflict. I merely wanted to ensure you were all right after giving me an incorrect number on Saturday. I was taken aback, and you could have clarified earlier. I didn't even ask about your well-being or your name. You should have shared that beforehand and given me your number instead. I wasn't feeling my best." "Where do you reside?" you inquired. "Typically, I spend time in Rome, Taylorsville, and Cartersville," I replied, momentarily startled. "You might find me complex if you keep reacting this way whenever I share personal details with you," you quipped, amused. "I'll clarify everything eventually. If I do it now, you might think I'm fabricating stories." "Very well. I'll accept it for the moment, but not forever." I could hear your smile. "It turns out we might be just 5 miles apart. I've taken a rental place on Harding Bridge Road by the river, near the boat launch." "Ah, I'm familiar with that spot. There's a plot with an old barn. I often visit because it's so picturesque and always offers surprises," I said sadly. "Wait, why don't you drop by? I think I know where you're referring to, and I'd like to meet up there." "All right, I'll see you there. In 10 minutes, I'll meet you here." I stood near the open gate when a black Nissan Juke approached slowly, driven by Samantha Kelly. Her eyes widened as she drove through the gate. "Here it is. This is the place I mentioned. There's a barn and what appears to be a house, and this is where you reside." "Indeed, I'm currently renting, but contemplating purchasing the property. My home is in a camper, tucked behind those trees. Follow me." I led the way for approximately 70 yards to the camper, with Samantha driving slowly beside me. Upon arrival, Samantha helped Katie out of her car seat, and we both called, "Keep clear of the water's edge." When the little 4-year-old girl dashed around to the front of her mom's car, we both chuckled and said in unison, "Do you remember middle school?" It brought laughter. We settled at a shaded picnic table and conversed. We exchanged more details about ourselves. Samantha was 24 years old. In her inaugural year at Kennesaw State University, Samantha became pregnant with Katie. Before Katie's birth, she wed Katie's father. Their marriage, however, was short-lived, lasting only 2 years. Her former spouse, discontented, accused Samantha of deliberately getting pregnant to force him into matrimony, believing it would enable her to be a stay-at-home mom. Post-divorce, he relocated to California without any contact for almost 3 years. To complete her degree, Samantha and Katie resided with her parents in New Harley. Presently, Samantha works as a nurse at Children's Health Care of Atlanta, Kennesaw. Living in the basement apartment of her parents' house, she continues to cohabit with Katie. As we observed, Katie tossed stones and sticks into the river while singing songs. "Have you had your meal?" I inquired. "No," Samantha answered. "I have to feed Katie first." "Shall we prepare hot dogs or burgers? It's early yet, and you can put Katie to bed following dinner," I suggested. "Would you like a hot dog, Katie?" Samantha inquired instead. Katie leaped with delight. "Yes, yes, yes," I replied. "If everyone prefers hot dogs, we can grill them over the fire and even toast marshmallows post-dinner," I suggested. Samantha concurred. I gathered wood in the stone pit to ignite a fresh fire, and shortly we had warm embers for cooking. We organized sausages, buns, condiments, chips, tea all set at the picnic table. I demonstrated to Katie how to grill the sausage over the coals. Katie soon grew fatigued and drowsy. "You'll need to reserve the marshmallows for another time," I informed Samantha. Katie dozed off in her car seat before they even departed. I bid farewell to Samantha through the car window, secured the gate after she drove away, and returned to tidy up. I verified the fire was extinguished, then took a shower and retired for the night. The following morning, I felt a void. I hadn't fully grasped the significance of effective communication. I had been married for more than 20 years. Over the past few months, or perhaps years, my marriage felt more akin to sharing a flat with a roommate than nurturing a relationship with a partner. The solitude of waking up alone became the stark reminder that my marriage had reached its end and I was single once more. My wife and I grew increasingly detached, and I chose not to bridge the gap between us. While not entirely her fault, I stopped investing time and effort in our bond. Our union, once vibrant, had transformed into a familiar yet uninteresting piece of clothing, an old leather jacket that needed mending but was left uncared for. In my neglect, I allowed our relationship to deteriorate. Although it does not absolve her infidelity, I never considered straying. I was aware that such actions were not predestined for her either. I communicated with Ted to inform me when the divorce papers were ready and then proceeded to work. In the office, I carried out my routine tasks. I scanned the board for any unusual assignments, logged into the computer to peruse recent patrol reports, and reviewed names or addresses relevant to my cases. Reviewed backgrounds of new case subjects and logged their activities. Scheduled a meeting with a child abuse case caseworker prior to departure. At around 9:30, my phone rang as I parked, Ted Shark's name appearing on the screen. "Hey, how did things go?" I asked. "The divorce papers have been filed, initiating the process officially. I hadn't sent them to the sheriff's department yet, but I thought you might want to deliver them to Sarah personally, so I held off. After our conversation yesterday, I believe she's come to terms with the situation and won't contest it. She stated she would sign everything without issue. I'll contact her to arrange a meeting or have your lawyer review the papers first," I suggested. "Sounds good to me," Ted replied. Following my encounter with Mickey Ramsey, a cheerful blonde I had collaborated with on multiple cases, we discussed the ongoing case. She agreed to forward it to Sid. Then I called Sarah. "Hello, Sean. Are the documents prepared?" she inquired. "Indeed they are," I responded. "Ted has them in his possession. Please inform me of a suitable time and location, and I'll deliver them to you, or alternatively, I can arrange for your review prior to signing." "I haven't engaged legal representation," Sarah stated. "Your impartiality throughout investigations has always been commendable, and I believe it hasn't wavered. I assume you propose an equal division of assets." As Donovan is an adult, child support won't be a concern, correct? Correct, I affirmed. Upon the sale of the house, the proceeds will be divided equally, debts settled, and the remainder apportioned accordingly. Each party retains their respective vehicles and pensions. This seems the most equitable solution. What if issues arise without a lawyer? She questioned. Trust will be essential, I replied. My aptitude for discerning character has served me well in the past. Very well, she agreed. I'll sign the documents today, allowing us both to progress. Thank you, I said, before hanging up. I then contacted another individual. Hey, Gilmore, is the camper in good condition? Yes, Dave, everything is well. Initially, I wanted to inquire if you were still willing to sell me that piece of land. Is the entire 37 acres up for sale? I was under the impression it was only 3. Upon clarification, you mentioned there's approximately 4 acres along the riverbank and another 33 on the opposite side of the road. Wow, that seems extensive. Are you selling it for living purposes or as an investment? Honestly, I appreciate this area and consider building a house here, but managing 37 acres might be challenging. How about we meet tonight, go fishing for catfish, and discuss further over dinner? Sounds good. I'll arrive at 6 p.m., bringing cornmeal and chicken livers. After wrapping up a burglary case, returning the stolen items, and securing arrest warrants for the suspect, I was scheduling a forensic evaluation for a minor in another case when Parker, Kilgore, and Hughes reached out. I completed my tasks before calling you back again, Ted. Sean, I've got news. Sarah has signed the papers and they're with the court. We're merely awaiting the judge's signature for your divorce. This seems straightforward? I inquired. Marriage isn't as it once was, Ted replied. Nowadays, it's either a convenience or a burden, contingent on one's perspective. Ted mentioned he'd send the bill. I'll settle it and we can go fishing sometime, I responded. See you later, he said. Post-work, I compiled my case logs, logged off, and noted groceries to buy. Upon reaching home, I changed into casual attire. Beneath the camper, I unearthed a machete and trimmed the foliage along the riverbank. A path and stone steps leading to a 3-foot ledge over the water surfaced. After a grueling 45 minutes, it was more suitable for fishing or swimming if the water was deep enough. Feeling too sweaty not to, I decided to take an immediate shower before heading to bed. After my shower, I emerged to discover David settled in a portable chair, observing kayakers passing by. Peaceful, isn't it? Dave remarked without looking away from the water. I enjoy it here more with each passing day, I responded. That's great to know, he said, unfurling another chair and setting it near the fire pit. I've spent countless summer days here. This is the finest spot for swimming along this stretch of the river, and it's an excellent location for catching catfish too. Motorboats won't work here, but kayaks and canoes are perfect. Downstream you can walk without getting your clothes wet, but right here it's about 12 to 15 feet deep with clear water. I grew up here, left following high school to join the Army. My parents perished when our house burned down in '86. All that remained were 2 chimneys and a foundation. I couldn't bear to rebuild. A developer wants to acquire the site to construct houses. My father wouldn't approve of that. I can't afford to keep paying taxes on an unoccupied plot. You purchased a camper as a source of income through rentals to meet taxes and extra funds. However, we are considering relocation to Savannah or Blue Ridge. My only relative is a cousin residing in Gadsden, and our relationship isn't great. David then said, I can't explain my attachment to this land, continuing, let's go fishing, and I'll share what's been on my mind. To which I agreed with a nod. We set up 2 fishing lines baited with chicken liver, cast them into the river, brought out folding chairs, and grabbed a bottle of Amberbock beer from the camper fridge. Dave sat down, began speaking. I propose this deal. If you buy all 37 acres under the condition that you won't sell it to a developer who'd construct houses so close as to smell your neighbor's morning breath, I will finance it at 3% interest and sell it to you for $40,000. Add an extra $5,000 if you wish to retain the camper. Offer me a 10% down payment whenever you can, and that amount will go towards purchasing the camper in its entirety. This offer is hard to beat elsewhere, and it would be unwise to let it pass unless there are hidden debts or charges. All debts are settled, he declared. There are no outstanding taxes, liens, claims, or court cases. I am the sole owner of the camper and can transfer it to you. If everything checks out, we have a deal. A lawyer will be needed to finalize this. I observed that it seemed he had been planning this for some time. I noticed your interest the other day and anticipated we would reach this point eventually, so I contacted my lawyer on Monday. I'll need to withdraw funds from the bank tomorrow. Dave acknowledged with a nod. Just then, a white Ford Expedition engine sound reached me, and I turned to find Stephanie emerging, grinning, carrying a 12-pack of Ungling beer. "Hey, Scout, how's it going, Dave?" she greeted. "Hi, Stephanie," I responded with a smile. "You're 3 for 3 at trying to land me in trouble," I joked. "That's correct," she replied, grinning back. We reeled in 10 catfish and cooked them along with hash browns on the grill, settling down at a picnic table as the sun sank. After dinner, Dave mentioned he had to return home before his wife became concerned. We escorted him to his vehicle, shaking hands. "I'll visit the bank early tomorrow for the money," I promised. "All right, I'll take the contract to court and begin transferring the plot into your name," agreed Dave. "Thanks for your trust," I said. "Once it's signed, the decision regarding the property is all yours, but I think you wouldn't want neighbors whose disputes you can hear or see." I smiled and nodded in agreement. Dave departed, leaving Stephanie and me behind. She offered me a bottle of beer. We spent the tranquil evening near the fire. "You've tidied up this spot. Now you can view the river more clearly," she observed. "Might pick up some logs for a weekend, start constructing stairs to the dock," I suggested. "Are you planning to buy the land? Are you going to stay here?" she inquired. "Affirmative. Closed the deal today, signed the contract," I verified. "Good," she responded, grinning. We chatted for a while before she suddenly said, "I overheard some gossip today." "Gossip?" I asked, intrigued. "Yes, are you ready to unlock your achievement badge, Scout?" she joked. "I've already earned most of my badges in Scouts," I replied. "Well, this one isn't listed in the manual," she taunted. "Extinguish the fire and join me inside." She departed for the camper. I was tempted to follow her, but I felt apprehensive. It had been months since my last relationship, and I hadn't been with anyone since. Yet I trusted Stephanie. I extinguished the fire and confirmed its safety before entering the camper. Following my shower, I discovered Stephanie reclining on the bed, a sheet concealing her midriff. She appeared captivating, her hair cascading over the pillow. I moved under the blankets and turned to embrace her, drawing her in for a tender kiss. We weren't rushed, yet we couldn't fully unwind either. The comfortable tension between us eventually morphed into a soothing sensation. We experienced an intimate moment. Stephanie nestled against my left side, placing her head on my shoulder. I gently caressed her back with my hand. Stephanie shifted her leg over mine and playfully fiddled with my chest hair. For several minutes, we remained silent before she spoke. Admittedly, it felt appropriate. "I hope you're not still burdened by guilt too much," she remarked. "I understand that altering feelings isn't an overnight process, right? It took me 6 years, which is far too long." She appeared to need to divulge her history. Isn't misery said to find comfort in shared stories? So I simply listened. Brant was the stereotypical athlete, overbearing, self-centered, manipulative. In school, he was esteemed by all students, teachers, parents included. We graduated side by side and ventured into college together, only to witness the pieces start falling apart. He didn't secure the football scholarship he had hoped for. Moreover, he didn't make the team. This angered him so much that he refused to don the school colors again. Stephanie laughed at the recollection. When he transitioned from the shallow waters of high school to the vast sea of university, he was no longer a prominent figure, she commented. It consumed him. He wished to postpone our wedding until after graduation. I understood his unhappiness at school, so I believed marrying him might lift his spirits. Thus, we tied the knot during the winter break before the spring semester began. For a brief period, everything seemed fine. We concluded our first year, and I proposed summer courses to accelerate graduation. However, Brant desired a respite. I managed to secure a paid summer internship with the sheriff's department, which benefited my criminal justice major. Approximately a month prior to the commencement of fall classes, Brant informed me that he had secured full-time employment at a brewery. I inquired whether he could manage this job alongside his studies. He suggested it might be prudent to take a semester off to accumulate earnings. This revelation led me to believe he would likely forego further education. Despite this, things weren't entirely disheartening. Brant earned a substantial income at the brewery, particularly once he began bartending on tours and weekends. I, on the other hand, remained a full-time student with part-time work, supplementing my income with paid internships every summer. Compared to most students not backed by wealthy families, our living standards were relatively high. In retrospect, it appears he may have been involved with others and consumed alcohol frequently during this period. As I stroked her back and hand, she carried on undisturbed. Following my graduation, he attempted to recruit me for the brewery, but I aimed for a career in law enforcement instead. This prospect did not sit well with him. He viewed law enforcement as a domain exclusive to men. Only later did I discover his manipulative tendencies and that he was illegally peddling substances through the brewery. Since beginning employment there, he had been concealing his actions to prevent his police officer wife from interfering with his business. She cast a glance at me as I reciprocated her gaze. "I'm familiar with the question, how could I not have seen this?" she remarked. I acknowledged her statement with a nod, and she resumed her previous position. Amidst the turmoil, I secured employment at the department where I had interned and found great satisfaction in my work. I excelled, receiving multiple promotions within 2 years. Disputes between us escalated. We even engaged in physical altercations. The final argument culminated with him assaulting me, to which I responded defensively using my baton. He departed swiftly, tires screeching, followed by the sound of a siren. I refrained from peeking out the window. I silenced my phone, placed it aside, took a shower, and retired for the night. Upon waking, I contacted my captain, requesting a week's leave. He granted me as much time as necessary, mentioning that he had a sense of the events unfolding. He informed me that Brant had been apprehended for driving under the influence and found in possession of large quantities of illicit substances. My world disintegrated, causing me to fret over potential job loss and all my accumulated efforts. However, my captain reassured me, alleviating my concern, allowing me to return home to my mother's residence for a week. We conversed about various possibilities to distract ourselves from Brant, discussing trivial matters. I consulted a lawyer to initiate the divorce process, obtaining copies of the papers to bring with me. I asked a coworker for a favor, requesting them to deliver the divorce documents to Brant while he was in jail. After he successfully obtained bail money, Brant seemed to decide that it was best to avoid me. He never appeared at our apartment when I was present. One day, upon returning from work, I discovered that all of his belongings had vanished, including the furniture in the living room. He left me without a television or computer. I believed it was a minor sacrifice to expel him from my life. I turned onto my back, and he lay on his left side, adjusting the pillow beneath his head to get a better view of her face. He began tenderly caressing her abdomen as she continued talking. For nearly 6 months more, I endured the subtle whispers and suspicious gazes that had grown too bothersome to ignore. The townsfolk suspected I must have been aware of Brant's illicit dealings due to our prolonged cohabitation. They assumed I managed to dodge his legal entanglements. There were even tales circulating that implied my complicity in his crimes. During a trip to see my mother, I submitted an application to the city police department and was granted an interview the following day. When I explained my circumstances, I noticed uncertainty flicker across the lieutenant's eyes, causing me to question myself. I requested he contact my captain at the sheriff's office for discussion about my background. A week later, I received a call scheduling my psychological and physical exams. Upon passing, I could begin once notifying the sheriff's department. After 3 weeks, I exchanged my brown uniform for one of blue. We lay in silence for a while before she spoke again. She has been divorced for 11 years and enjoys going on dates, but doesn't pursue serious dating. When I expressed that I was both intrigued and a bit self-conscious about it, she concurred. She continued by saying that while she'd enjoy spending time with me when possible, she didn't foresee herself getting into a long-term relationship anytime soon. As we spoke the other day, you'll be quite popular among some single women I know, and that popularity is coming up soon. For now, though, she asserted, you belong to her. She then moved me onto my back, straddled me, and started kissing me, bringing us closer once more. Teasingly, she suggested I should consider taking vitamins for strength and perhaps removing a barrier on the road. Intrigued, I pressed for clarification. She smiled and admitted that while she doesn't date, she enjoys having fun. Many of the people here have had difficult marriages or relationships in the past, and they have a group where they can avoid loneliness without risking another failed relationship. I asked about how this group works, to which she replied, the situation isn't flawless, but it's satisfactory. At times, certain individuals in this circle opt for exclusive companionship, and it tends to work out for them. However, there have been a few instances where the inability to manage jealousy towards others has been an issue. Such people often had struggles in their past relationships. Currently, we are almost 20 individuals strong, some of whom you've already spoken with. Who exactly? You wondered, and I chuckled. A couple of men and one woman, I replied, grinning. So, who is this woman? You asked next. You'll discover if you decide to join us. It's not a trial or anything. I believe you'll fit in well and enjoy it. But should it not suit your taste, I hope you'll continue to be pleased to see me. This has been one of the best nights I've had in years, and I don't intend to miss out. I returned your smile and embraced you before switching off the light. Good night, Boy Scout. Good night, beauty, you heard before drifting off to sleep. It appears we didn't stir during the night, as we were in the same position upon waking. I struggled to recall the last instance when I awoke with a woman embracing me in slumber. It had been many moons ago. It felt unnatural to rouse Stephanie, yet we both needed to prepare for work. I bent down and kissed her forehead, transforming her tranquil smile into a wide grin. Good morning, Scout. Good morning, beauty, she responded. I could grow fond of waking up to this every day. Be careful not to pamper me excessively, considering what I said yesterday about my free-spirited nature, she remarked, stretching and yawning. It's unfortunate we can't indulge in play today, but we must soon depart for work, I sighed. Stephanie puckered her lips. At least you brought clean work attire, so you won't need to rush home immediately, she pointed out. I hastily donned my clothes as bacon sizzled in the kitchen, filling the trailer with a savory aroma. Though this isn't the ideal moment, there's something I must share with you, she said. My hands halted on the third button of my shirt. Yesterday, I shared a gossip regarding you without disclosing my source. Later, Stephanie was done preparing. Sarah visited our office in the afternoon yesterday. Her intention was to meet with the lead detective on the realtor case. Upon reaching my desk, she expressed her willingness to divulge her part and testify against fellow employees at the agency. She submitted a written declaration detailing how she became involved, assisted in sales, and the amount Sutton paid her. She admitted to having affairs with multiple clients, but never asked for any concessions. Sarah wanted to acknowledge her errors and initiate her punishment. She confessed that she had wounded the only person she ever cherished deeply. Due to her actions, she lost something precious, her marriage. She slept with 5 distinct clients, one of them twice, but she never slept with Sutton. Instead, he relies on trusted staff members to discover fresh candidates for his program. He's worried about facing accusations of harassment since he plans to recruit them himself, and it was Jessica who introduced Sarah to him. Sutton's spouse Carmen appears to supply medication for erectile dysfunction and illegally traffics other substances to generate additional income. Other women aren't entrusted with the drugs. I spoke with the prosecutor before leaving the office. We're meeting today to discuss our strategies. I'm informing you because I need to know your intentions regarding Sarah. What do you mean? I have no involvement in your investigation, I responded. No, but you were drawn into this predicament and she deceived you. She betrayed you. It would be understandable if you wanted her to suffer cruelly. However, that's not my approach. I don't relish seeing her suffer. Destroying her won't rectify the situation. Focus on what benefits your case the most. Don't concern yourself with me. Consider this place as evidence of my own recovery. Every day here is better than the one before. Concerning tomorrow, there's an apprehension because the thought of blinking could make everything vanish, leaving me to return to my previous life. As for the court proceedings, it's been suggested that in exchange for her testimony and a guilty plea on 6 counts of sex trafficking, the prosecutor proposes 12 months imprisonment concurrently and a fine of $1,000 per charge amounting to half of her total charges. Given her lack of prior criminal record, additional penalties include a year of probation and paying the remaining portion of the fine. Regarding Sutton, we're still building a case against him with at least 28 counts involving pimping, aiding sex work, operating a brothel, as well as drug-related charges. The potential penalties could lead to multiple years in prison and substantial fines. In addition, he faces the possibility of losing his real estate agency and Sarah's real estate license, home, family, and reputation among our friends. The question remains, why did she do all this? Was there ennui in her demeanor? Or did affection for wealth and dominance over males stir within her? Inquire if you wish to learn the truth, as she appeared fractured during our conversation yesterday. A pang of sadness almost overwhelmed me when I saw her. She was on the brink of shattering, I murmured. You'll recover soon. I believe I am, I responded with a smile. Now, disclose to me which member of the group I encountered this week. Mickey, she replied, smiling. Mickey Ramsey from the Department of Children and Families. Not who I had in mind, I stated. Yes, it wasn't the one I suspected. She anticipated that you would invite her to dine during your meeting yesterday. Impressive, was my response. Stephanie completed her preparations before departing with a flirtatious grin. I'll phone you this afternoon with updates on the prosecutor's case. Following our dress-up and a speedy breakfast, we ventured forth to confront the day. Until later, Boy Scout. Have I outgrown that moniker? I inquired. Perhaps. Yet, I still appreciate when you call me lovely, she replied with a smile that was growing dearer to me. I'm glad your day is at least as delightful as you are, I said. She smiled brightly, her eyes twinkling. She leaned towards me and kissed my cheek before moving away. I trailed behind her to the door. Audience, if you appreciated this video and wish to stay informed about our new content, remember to click that subscribe button and enable notifications. You wouldn't want to miss the future updates. Thanks for viewing, and see you in the next video.